I Love CVille Show. My name is Jerry Miller. Good Tuesday afternoon to you. Thank you kindly for joining us on the program. It looks like you need to check YouTube to make sure we're live on. Multiple people are asking us and saying that we're not live on YouTube. I really want to emphasize being live on YouTube when we start the show, please. Viewers and listeners, we will go live. A lot we're going to cover on the show. Take a look at the screen for today's headlines. Take a look at the screen for today's headlines. We're going to talk on the program, ladies and gentlemen, a sign of the times, a troubling foreshadowing omen. Nearly 30 vineyards in the Commonwealth of Virginia are on the market for sale right now, including a handful of vineyards and wineries in and around the Charlottesville area. I want to talk about this on I Love CVille. We've highlighted in the past the concern we're hearing around craft beer. That concern is also resonating around vineyards and wineries. And there's some chatter about hard liquor. Is a spirit, Judah, just liquor? Or does beer and wine fall under the spirit category? If I call it craft spirits, is that specifically liquor? Or is craft spirits inclusive of beer and wine? Regardless, we are feeling some cracks in the beer craft industry, in the wine craft industry, and in the local liquor craft industry. We'll unpack that on the I Love CVille show today. Do me a favor of liking and sharing the show. Like the show, share the show. We remind the viewers and listeners that Bert Ellis will be on the program on Wednesday, tomorrow. And that should be an interview that is one that's going to resonate, I think, across the Commonwealth, Mid-Atlantic, and across alumni bases over the United States, as Bert Ellis, the fired Board of Visitors member, is now going to spend nearly an hour with us tomorrow and is a tell-all interview on why Glenn Youngkin fired him from the most powerful, the most prestigious, the most influential board at one of the top public universities in the world. Bert Ellis tomorrow. If you have a question for Mr. Ellis, put it in the feed, send me a direct message, and I will relay those questions to Mr. Ellis on the show. A lot I want to cover on the program, including Ziana Bryant's most recent interview in the Daily Progress. And the headline in the Daily Progress, and parents, voters, community members, get ready for this headline. It's Ziana Bryant wants the school board to be, I can't believe I'm saying this. Ziana Bryant, who is running for Charlottesville School Board, wants the school board to be more like her. Bold. I'm going to ask you, the viewer and listener, should a school board that represents a public school system, is the first adjective that you want to see or read that describes the board, is the first adjective bold? When you think school board and you think elected officials that are entrusted with managing a public school system, do you want those elected officials to act in bold capacity, as activist Ziana Bryant is saying, if elected, that's what she will do while on the board? I want to talk about that. I encourage Ziana Bryant to come on the program. I encourage Ziana Bryant to watch the I Love CVille show with yours truly and Judah Wickower. We're going to talk what I think might be the most egregious retraction I've ever seen. If you could change headline number 3, CVilleRightNow.com is what the headline I asked for, please, sir. CVilleRightNow.com has posted what I think might be the most egregious retraction I have ever read in nearly 23 years of being in journalism. That retraction was posted yesterday on its website. And I highlighted, it's interesting, Charlottesville Media Group watches the program. If the boss over there, Garrett Klingel, watches this show, if he does watch the show, I want Garrett Klingel and the folks that I do business with at Charlottesville right now, our Charlottesville Radio Group, Charlottesville Media Group, done business with a number of people over there. Garrett Klingel, I watched Garrett, who I believe now, let me go to his LinkedIn, has a title of president. Let me confirm on his LinkedIn. I hope Garrett hears this. He's now the president and general manager of Charlottesville Media Group, Garrett Klingel. I've watched Garrett go from an account representative, where I worked with him nearly, I don't know, what do you think, Garrett, 15, 16 years ago? He was the account representative on the Scott Wagner chiropractic and sports medicine account, Scott Wagner integrated medicine account. We've worked with Dr. Wagner for 15, 16 years. Our shop, VMV Brands, I Love CVille, we came up with the tagline, "Who's got your back?" while recording a radio spot at Charlottesville Radio Group's rival Monticello Media. It was me, it was Dr. Wagner, Dr. Wagner's beautiful better half, Kristen, and Pam Garrison, all recording a commercial. And we were goofing around and we said, "Dr. Wagner, you should sing Who's Got Your Back." I know it says it in the script, a script that I wrote. I wrote the script. That's what we do for a lot of our clients. I know it says, read these words, "Who's got your back?" But how about you go, "Who's got your back?" And it stuck, and business boomed. And he would go anywhere and everywhere across Charlottesville and Albemarle and Central Virginia. You can ask him this, whether playing golf at Farmington, whether walking the downtown mall, whether having cocktails at the mall or the Aberdeen Barn, or going to sporting events, that someone would point to him and go, "Who's got your back?" And business boomed. It was one of the best pieces of advertising and branding ever birthed from VMV Brands. One of the few items that was relatively comparable to the "Who's Got Your Back" tagline was Interstate Pest and Service Companies, A Home's Best Friend, or the branding and advertising, the logo we did for Citizen Burger Bar. Those three iconic over the course of our last generation and the Central Virginia markets for three businesses that have had fantastic success that we have joyfully worked alongside. Worked alongside. And while growing the Scott Wagner business, we said, all right, let's create a strategic campaign. Let's throw some advertising dollars with Charlottesville Media Group, with Monticello Media, with NBC 29. NBC 29, we were working with Luke Garrett. CBS 19, I think it was Josephine Humphrey. We did it at Comcast and Xfinity. They had a number of reps over at Comcast and Xfinity. But I very much enjoy working with the advertising reps locally. One thing you will have noticed of late is the advertising reps at television and radio, especially TV, have turned. There's been a boatload of turnover. But for the most part, the core advertising representatives at Charlottesville Media Group have been intact. They've been stable with their job security. I think probably of all the legacy media, Garrett, I really hope you hear this, the team at Charlottesville Media Group, I hope you hear this. Of all the legacy and OG old guard media, Monticello Media, the one on Pepsi Place that has Country 99.7 WCYK and Hot 101.9 FM as their flagship stations. Okay, that's one OG media. Another OG media is the Charlottesville Radio Group that's now Charlottesville Media Group. They have 97.5, 3WV, 106.1 The Corner. And working those different dynamic shots that you did yesterday with the studio cam and the picture-in-picture, that looked really great, Judah. The third OG old guard media, NBC 29, right down the street from us. I work there. I also work for Monticello Media. Fourth OG media, CBS 19, and the fifth OG old guard media, the Daily Progress. I worked at the Daily Progress as well. So of the five old guard or legacy media, Charlottesville Radio Group, Monticello Media, Daily Progress, NBC 29, and CBS 19. I worked for years for 3 of the 5. That's what I did coming out of the University of Virginia, cutting my teeth to gain experience. And I intimately know these companies, whether earning paychecks from them or placing client advertising dollars on their platforms. Our model is we manage a boatload of advertising dollars. I don't think there's a business or a firm in Central Virginia in this 300,000 person market that is managing more advertising dollars than our firm. And that's set humbly and straightforwardly and just, it is what it is. I mean, we've been doing this 17 years in May. The firm is 17 years old on the 29th of May. So in the process of placing these dollars, you get to know the representatives. You get to know Ashley Maxey Kirby at Charlottesville Media Group and Charlottesville Radio Group. She's great at her job. She's damn good at her job. Carol Craddock at Monticello Media is damn good at her job. Luke Garrett, who is no longer at NBC 29, was damn good at his job. I mean, loved working with Luke. Josephine Humphrey at CBS 19, damn good at her job. Don't know anyone that works for Daily Progress anymore. I don't even think the Daily Progress is calling on local advertising dollars, which is absolutely shocking if you think about that. The local newspaper is not calling on local advertising dollars. That's mind-boggling to me. But you get to know these reps. I've gotten to know Garrett Klingel. He is really good at his job. Now he's the president and general manager of Charlottesville Media Group. I remember when he was an account executive selling AM radio, sports talk radio, and working alongside him with the Scott Wagner account. I highlighted last week on the show that CVilleRightNow.com is filling a niche for local news, and I'm glad that they are stepping up and filling the void of this area becoming a news desert. I'm glad they are. But the retraction that was issued yesterday at 5 p.m. is maybe the most egregious attraction I have ever seen in my 23 years of working in media in Central Virginia. I'll read the 2 paragraphs from the retraction. This is verbatim from their website. CVille Right Now recently published a report that told a fictitious story about an individual who does not exist, Dion Taylor. Our article claimed this man was represented by UVA's Innocence Project and that he received $580,000 from the General Assembly. Neither is true. It also quoted the former director of the Innocence Project, Deidre Enright, when in fact Miss Enright had never been interviewed about this non-existent person or payment. We have removed this fictitious story from our website and want to convey our sincere apologies to Miss Enright, the Innocence Project at UVA School of Law, and to our readers. Now these are my words. I just read from their website. They reported a story about a person who is not real. A story was reported about a make-believe person or a person that is actually not a real human being. And to compound the matter, they quoted an individual, the former director of the Innocence Project, when in fact they had never spoken to the individual they quoted about a person that is not actually a real-life person. And to compound the egregious nature of the retraction, the article was deleted from the platform. I want to unpack that on today's show. I want to unpack on today's program, guys, that nearly 30 vineyards are for sale in the Commonwealth of Virginia right now. I want to highlight Ziana Bryant's comments that she wants the school board, if she's elected to the Charlottesville City School Board, to be bold like she is. Bold like she is. I want to ask you, the viewer and listener, should a school board be bold? Frankly, I prefer my government to be boring, consistent, and in the background. I don't want my government to be bold and loud and embody the personalities of one individual. I want the elected body to be boring in the background and an embodiment of all the elected officials on the board, a cohesive unit. I want to unpack that on today's show. I want to unpack on today's program and ask you, the viewer and listener, this question. Kyle Guy, did he get burned by the University of Virginia and Ryan Odom? He released a statement around midday yesterday that he no longer will be associated with the University of Virginia as a coach. Did the face of a generation of Virginia basketball, at least a player's face, Tony Bennett, you can say, is the face. Kyle Guy, the player's face, a national champion. Did he get screwed here by the University of Virginia? I'm going to have that question or answer that question for you. And I want to remind you, the viewer and listener, that Bert Ellis is on the program tomorrow. And you, the viewer and listener, can ask Bert Ellis, fired by Glenn Youngkin, questions during the interview. Judah Wickower, two-shot, then studio camera. Really, on the monologue, I want to make this part of the monologue moving forward. I'll do friendly reminders during our pre-production meetings to rotate those camera angles with the studio camera and the picture-in-picture shots. It adds a level of dynamic that I like to our production. Headline that most intrigues you, Judah Wickower, and why? Is it the 30 vineyards that are for sale in Virginia? Is it the softening of the craft spirits industry? And did we figure out if spirits encompasses beer, wine, and liquor? Or is it spirits just liquor?
I think it's usually just liquor.
Just liquor? Okay. Is it the softening of the craft alcohol category in general? Is it Ziana Bryant saying she wants the board to be bold like she is? Or is it the CVilleRightNow.com retraction? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to start?
I think the retraction is the most wild. I mean, it sounds entirely to me like a Chat GPT. I don't know, drug-induced nightmare.
A Chat GPT drug-induced nightmare. I appreciate the language Judah Wickower has chosen. I want to highlight a partner of the program, Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, 60 consecutive years of business. Approaching 61, Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, the Vermillions, Andrew Vermillion and John Vermillion, a 3-generation family-owned business, online at charlottesvillesanitarysupply.com, and located in person on East High Street, Charlottesville Sanitary Supply. I also want to highlight that our firm, Charlottesville Business Brokers, has cash buyers looking to deploy capital and purchase businesses. We have 2 of them, ladies and gentlemen, that are sophisticated, very well-heeled, very well-funded, and owners of very established businesses locally that have back-end human resource departments, back-end payables and receivables departments, back-end management departments that they now want to plug and play other businesses into their established equation of success. Let me know, DM me, email me, call me, text me if you're interested in potentially selling your business. And speaking of selling, Judah, I read the Daily Progress over the weekend. This was on the 5th of April. And the headline was titled, Judah, that Whitehall Vineyards closes. And Whitehall Vineyards has closed its doors after more than 30 years of being in business, Judah. More than 30 years. The property, as the Daily Progress reports, as we have heard through the real estate grapevine, how we make our living is real estate, folks. It's not the podcasting network, although it's a pleasure to do the show with you guys. And it creates a lot of deal flow and opportunity for us. We have heard through our grapevine, Judah, that the property was listed for $12 million, and then it was taken off the market. This is one of the older vineyards in the area. Not saying it's the oldest. I believe it's Barbersville that has that title as the oldest vineyard. In fact, Barbersville is one of the oldest vineyards. Neil Williamson can hold me accountable on this, but one of the oldest vineyards in our area, and maybe one of the oldest vineyards on the East Coast. I should know that. I will look that up after the show. Still, Whitehall was established in 1992 by Tody and Eddie Champ. It's 210 acres on Sugar Ridge Road in Albemarle County. This vineyard has vistas of the Blue Ridge Mountains and an 11-bedroom residence on the site. Heck, the $12 million for 210 acres in an 11-bedroom residence. The $12 million seems like a steal, frankly. I'm not saying it's affordable. I'm saying 210 acres in Albemarle County with an 11-bedroom residence and a working business. Now, that business, to say it's making money, I'm not going to make that statement. I would not want to be in the vineyard and winery business. It's a business that's tied to seasonal elements. We've heard horror stories locally of how an unexpected frost can kill an entire year worth of grapes and vines, devastating the output for a vineyard or winery. It makes its money by bottling wine, selling glasses and bottles. Regardless, the listing agent is Rich Walden. Rich Walden is a known commodity in the farms and the estates stratosphere as an agent. And he's interviewed by this Emily Hemphill, who does a good job for the Daily Progress. And, you know, it's pretty ho-hum article. I've known for a long time that Whitehall was on the market for $12 million. I worked our Rolodex. Is it a Rolodex? Contact list? Whatever you want to call it, to see if we had any buyers. Most of the folks that we had talked to said they don't want to get into that line of work because of the arduous nature and unpredictable nature of the line of work. I said, all right, I can't find a buyer. I'd love to get the business brokerage commission of 3 to 6, in some cases 10% of total sales price on $12 million. That'd be nice. Didn't make it happen. Okay. And I'm reading the article and I'm like, okay, I know this. This, all right. And then I get to the bottom of the story. And in the second to last paragraph of the article, something stood out to me, caught my attention. In a lot of ways, it's the story, but it was buried to the second to last paragraph. And I don't blame the reporter for burying this. It takes some institutional knowledge to truly understand the magnitude of what Walden is saying. This show broke the news that Whitehall Vineyards was for sale. We break the news here on the I Love CVille Network. We broke it months ago. That's why you watch the show, and that's why Legacy and Old Guard Media is watching the program right now. They're sourcing our show for news for your television broadcasts and what you read online or see in print. Okay, we're fine with it. We get it. But in the second to last paragraph, there was an item that I did not know about. As you put the lower thirds on screen, you're going to be rotating the first 2 lower thirds on screen here. Walden said, the listing agent, previous listing agent, that there are roughly 30 vineyards now on the market in Virginia, including several in the Monticello region. It's unclear, the article reports, which specific wineries are listed, as most of them are under discrete listings, as Walden puts it, where all identifying information is concealed. 30 vineyards on the market for sale right now in the Commonwealth. We brokered the sale of a lot of businesses locally. I would venture to say Charlottesville Business Brokers, online at charlottesvillebusinessbrokers.com, of late has brokered the most business transactions. I'll give a suggestion to those that want to sell their business. Trying to sell your business under cloak and dagger and clandestine, confidential, deep cover nature makes it extremely difficult to sell. A lot of the businesses we have sold, it was known which brand and business was available for purchase. And that opened up the buyer pool to a much larger option or a much larger selection of buyers. I encourage all potential sellers to do that. Yes, the fear is your employees will leave you. Yes, the fear is that business will suffer. Yes, the fear is people will steal from you. The reality is that really doesn't happen. As a tip from a broker to potential sellers, let the world know what's for sale. It's like you trying to sell a Honda Civic or a Lexus or a Range Rover, and you say, I got a car for sale. I'm not going to tell you the make or model, but this is the amount of money that I want for it. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. That's what a lot of these business owners are trying to do. I'm getting off track. This is the premise that I want to talk about. Judah, 30 vineyards and wineries in the Commonwealth of Virginia right now for sale. How do you want to unpack that, my friend?
I would want more information on the individual businesses. I mean, at 30 years is what was it, Whitehall?
Yeah.
Is it still owned by the original founders?
It's in the family. You didn't have a chance to read that article?
No.
You should read the news every day. That's how we stay informed of what's going on in our community.
Okay.
Read the news on the think tank. Got nothing to do, right? Just a suggestion. Like, all right. Read the news in the think tank. Lisa Champ is calling the shots now. We're going to highlight that we now know it's Whitehall that's for sale. We do not know, as you indicated, that which of the 30 are on the market. That's a fair point that you've made there.
Not just which of the 30, but why they're on the market. Like, if you've been in a business for 30 years, then deciding to sell the business, let somebody else take over for a while, is very much a different situation than somebody realizing that after 5 years of constantly propping up a business, that it's just not a viable effort. Those two are very different things, and so. I can't look at 30 businesses for sale and say that it means something because I don't know the particulars behind each of those sales.
That's a fair point.
It could be that they're all having hardships, and that's understandable. But I'm not gonna say that that's the reason. When it could just be that that it happens that a large portion of these owners are deciding to retire.
This is right up Neil Williamson's alley. I believe still part of the partnership group, Neil Williamson, at Well Hung Vineyards. The guy knows the vineyard and winery business inside and out, like Marty McFly knows DeLoreans, and like Doc Brown knows flux capacitors. Mr. Williamson is watching the program, and he's highlighted that he purchased one of the last cases of Whitehall Vineyards Petit Verdot last month. Wow. And he confirms, yes, Jerry, Barboursville Vineyards, founded in 1976, one of the older vineyards in Virginia. He says the winery business is as hard or harder than the restaurant business. 30 years is a great track record for any business. I know firsthand, working with some of these brands, that this is as difficult as any business in Central Virginia. With the restaurant business, we think about the difficulty. But the reality is, when you're in the restaurant business, you're selling something that's delivered to you by what? PFG or a local Performance Foods Group, which is a national provider of food, or it's delivered to you by a local farm or a local cattle farm, a local produce farm, right? Some kind of local purveyor, okay? When the food is delivered to you, which you then 3X or 4X on your menu to sell to customers, that food comes to you ready to go to sell. In the vineyard and winery business, if you get a crappy season, you don't have grapes to make wine to sell for the next go-around. And then what do? You're scrambling. This is as difficult as any business as there is in Central Virginia. Okay? Now, I had an interesting conversation here. I tried to parlay personal experiences with hosting this show. Interesting conversation with a captain of a UVA varsity sports team yesterday in the locker room. Okay? We're in the locker room. This dude just worked out. I just worked out. We were upstairs pushing steel, lifting some weights. He's jacked, throws up a bench that I could only dream of. I'm just trying to stay alive and make it to see my grandkids. I work out to be able to drink a couple of IPAs every night and to eat some tins of Pringles. He's working out for, I quote, to be the biggest I've ever been as I transitioned from a varsity athlete into the professional world. And I said, well, you got a graduation party coming up. He goes, you're invited to the graduation party. Whole team expects to see you there. I said, why, thank you for that invitation. And then I said, what's the plan for the graduation? How are you celebrating your last few months of being a student at the University of Virginia? Are you raging? Are you going out and drinking? Are you partying? Obviously waxing nostalgic of what I did for all 4 years. Not just the last few months. I literally did this all 4 years. And he goes, you know what? don't really drink. And you should have seen me. My jaw hit the locker room floor. This is a physical specimen, an Adonis, a fourth year. The world is his oyster. I would not be surprised if this guy is clocking 350, 325 as a PR on the bench. Certainly over 3 bills. Not an ounce of fat on him. The dude is a unit. He's diesel. Good-looking guy. Captain of a varsity sports team. Fantastic student. Already has a job lined up in artificial intelligence in the D.C. area, Georgetown area. And he says to me, I don't really drink. We don't really go out and drink and party. And I was floored. I thought about it. And after thinking about it for a little while, I realized, A, the University of Virginia student, and I've highlighted this on previous shows, is not drinking or partying to the clip of what we did in the early 2000s, where we went out literally Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And some of us went out on these days in the calendar, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for football, took a nap, and then Sunday night, and then Monday did it again. Some of us did that. Okay, that's not happening now. So that's why you see some suffering on the UVA corner, some vulnerability on the UVA corner. It also reinforces the notion of what we said on the show, that the young millennial and the Gen Zer has changed mindset of what they're doing. And Neil wants me to highlight, for what it's worth, I'm no longer associated with Well Hung Vineyard. I was bought out by my former business partner. Neil Williamson, congratulations on your exit. You and your partners built a fantastic brand in Well Hung Vineyards. I did not know that you exited Well Hung Vineyard. Congratulations on your exit, my friend. This is what I learned, or was reinforced with me with the conversation, that the younger generation is just not as focused with getting after it like, say, a mid-30s, upper 30s, early 40-year-old UVA product did. Okay? And secondly, we continue to hear, Judah, on this network, the headwinds are extremely real for craft spirits, craft beer, and craft wine. And our statements on this show are getting reinforced by realtors or brokers of these types of transactions and businesses that indicate that there's 30 opportunities for sale in wine alone in the Commonwealth of Virginia alone. Mm-hmm. In the Commonwealth of Virginia alone. There are multiple options for purchase that I know of in beer in the Commonwealth of Virginia alone, and some locally. Mm-hmm. Denver Riggleman's Silverback Distillery, active and openly for sale right now in Afton. We got 9+ acres on Route 151 for Riggleman's Silverback. 9+ acres on 151.
But that's not a business for sale.
It is. You can buy the business.
But it's not going to be Silverback.
You could buy the business and, okay, fair enough. Buy the business and you can rebrand it.
Yeah.
Or you could, if you wanted to, I've been told, buy the business and the actual brand. But I want to highlight this regardless. 9.5 acres with the equipment, the machinery, and the buildings and the tasting room in Nelson County for $2.5 million and still on the market. 9.5 acres. You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. You got, and Todd Rath, I'm going to get to your comments here. He's a Blue Toad Hard Cider, the owner that's watching the program. Todd Rath, I'm getting to your comments. Beer, wine, and liquor owners are watching the program locally. I'm going to get to their comments here. The Whitehall deal, I'm not trivializing $12 million, okay? I am not trivializing $12 million. But you're talking 210 acres in Albemarle County. You are talking 11-bedroom residence, and the list price was $12 million, and it did not sell. 210 acres. Right?
Yeah.
These are very real headwinds. And it's a natural segue into our next topic that we can talk on the show. Put it on screen. I randomly asked this question on the program. Are we on a 2-shot? Am I on this camera here? I randomly asked the question on the show yesterday. It was not part of the headlines or the rundown. And I said, which sector of business locally in Charlottesville are you bullish on right now? And both Judah and I hesitated with our answer. And then Judah, after some thought, said, I'm bullish on weed and marijuana. And I'm not knocking the answer. I think it's a right answer. It's in the right category. It's in the category of correct. I'll ask you, the viewer and listener, right now, what category of business in the Charlottesville area are you bullish on for its upside and long-term success potential? Knowing it takes, on average, 3 years to get a business up and running before you start seeing any kind of return on your investment. I'm looking for the viewer and listener to offer some insight. Todd Rath, I respect your opinion tremendously. Owner of Blue Toad Hard Cider in Nelson, he says this, my good buddy and I, who is in the beer business, much like our cider business constantly says, while we might make excellent beverages, we are truly in the entertainment business. I know who that good buddy of his is, and I'll leave it at that. His good buddy, I'll say, was a one-time doctor. That's all I'm going to say. You know who I'm talking about?
I think I probably do.
Okay. He says, my good buddy and I, who is in the beer business, like our cider business, constantly says, we make excellent beverages, but we're truly in the entertainment business. That guy he's referring to is a one-time doctor, and I'll leave it at that. Because if Mr. Rath wanted to say who that guy was, he would have put it in the feed. That leads me to the answer of headline 2, which should be on screen now. The sectors of business that I'm bullish on, if they're not in the experiential category, then you're going to have challenges with growing your business, building your business. I would say if this is what your category, what your businesses need to have, and I had this conversation with a business owner on Friday that's got a $4 or $5 million business that's thinking about exiting. The businesses that are either in the experiential business or have some kind of like reoccurring payment where it's like quarterly somebody's coming and checking on your house, or twice a month someone's coming and checking on your HVAC units. They're in the service contract business. The service contract business, whether you're like doing pest control and pest remediation, HVAC filter checking, twice a year checking the unit, preventative checks, those service contracts and the experiential business, those two is what I would be pursuing right now in the Charlottesville area if I wanted to build a business. Because if you're in the business that is anywhere near a competitor that we call the internet, it will be difficult to beat this competitor we call the internet on price. Because this competitor we call the internet, do we think the internet's going to be around for a while? Is it proven to be stable? Is the internet long term, do we think? Is it going to hang around?
I think maybe.
Is it going to stay?
We hope it will.
Is the internet going to stay around? Is the world really been a better place since the internet's been birthed?
No.
No, I sincerely want to ask that question. Is the world a better place now that the internet's been birthed?
No, it's not.
Oh, that's a question for another day. Those two categories, ladies and gentlemen, service contracts and experiences. Service contracts and experiences. Todd Rath, this man is in this game here, says businesses that are family friendly with experiences and things to do for all, while at the same time keeping mom and dad along with neighbors and extended families. That's what's going to be around for the long haul. A great example is what our friends at Pro Renata are doing. concert venues and stages everywhere, cornhole pits, a playground, a sports bar, a diverse beverage portfolio of beer, liquor, wine, a pizzeria, an ice cream parlor, axe throwing, arcade games, fire pits, views of the Blue Ridge Mountains. How's that for an experience? Juan Sarmiento says, I'm with Judah. Marijuana industry. Unfortunately, Glenn Youngkin is killing the advances that Ralph Northam made toward it coming to fruition. Guess what?
He won't be around much longer.
We're in an election year. And I'm shocked that Youngkin did that. There's 2 moves that Youngkin has done that I've found very curious. 3 moves, really. Move number 1 was the narking hotline, when he created that hotline to narc on people with COVID. When he was like, if you're seeing some shadiness and you're narking, and he was, call this number and narc people. That was early COVID. And then coming out when he started his when he started his term, he got real ballsy and big in the britches with some of the edicts he tried to roll out with COVID.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of this guy.
You've never been a big fan?
No.
Wow.
I said it at the very beginning. When he first took office, he started with the executive orders. Like, bam, bam, bam. The problem is we had just gotten done, complaining about the Democrats doing the exact same thing. And I can't stand hypocrisy. So when both sides point at each other across the aisle and say, oh, you're making executive orders or, mandates or whatever, and bypassing, the rule of law, I think, I hate you all. You're all a bunch of double talking. No, I mean, I'm being somewhat I'm overselling a little bit, but the point is, all these people come into office and act like they're what doesn't stink, and they're they've got lily white sheets, and they're all just the same, and I don't appreciate that.
Deep Throat, number 1 in the family, says, I'm bullish on a climbing gym. And I'll highlight this. Mike and Jessica Kinnick opening a climbing gym on Old Ivy Road. Rock Revolution, now scheduled to open in July. It's going to be a bouldering paradise with top rope, we hope, in the near future. Founding member offering is now available. You want to be a founding member of Rock Revolution? Check out their website and how you can be one of the founding members and the perks that go with it. I think this bouldering gym on Old Ivy Road, in the location of an old office building, I was part of brokering this deal. Terry Hinderman, I played double squash with him. The mayor of Fry Springs, the owner of the Maury Avenue Shopping Center, the owner of the Fry Springs gas station, where Pi Napo Pizza is, owns this office building. This office building being gutted and turned into a bouldering gym. A July opening. That's experiential. I think that's going to crush it. I think Colleen and Chris and the team are going to kill it with CVille Smash, the indoor pickleball facility in the old Marshalls location. I think Daniel, don't let me forget your last name, Halpert, Dr. Daniel Halpert is going to kill it with Coco's Adventure Center, Adventure Park, in the old Big Lot spot. Experiential. These are experiences. Kids indoor entertainment, indoor pickleball. John Blair watching the program. Mr. Blair says this. There goes Lou Stevens, the owner of the tennis shop right there on Market Street. Love Lou Stevens and the tennis shop. John Blair says, one potential bullish Charlottesville sector is trying to become the racket sports capital of Virginia. It would require local government and private industry to work together, but I honestly think the elements, interests, personnel, facilities, and future facilities are here for this to work. The Boar's Head and Jaffrey Woodruff are bringing 3 padel courts. This is the fastest growing sport in Europe. It's called padel. It's squash meets tennis. 3 padel courts to the Boar's Head. There's 1 padel court already in Greencroft. That means there will be 4 padel courts within a mile or 2 of each other on Ivy Road. These type of experiences, and John makes a good point of being an epicenter for racket sports. Love the idea. Love the idea. So many racket players per capita in this area. Certainly with Farmington and Greencroft and Boar's Head and Keswick and Glenmore and pickleball at Dart and Tau. And what ACAC and Catherine D'Souza are offering. Racket sports everywhere. And with the University of Virginia's tennis programs and squash programs leading the charge. Did you know the UVA pickleball team is a national champion team, the UVA pickleball team? And they play over at the Snyder Tennis Center. Might as well call it the Snyder Pickleball Center now. And I'll push back a little on Glenn Youngkin. Okay? I think Glenn Youngkin, with the edicts out of COVID, that was dumb, especially since he was new in office. And I'll push back on Glenn Youngkin with what he did with the marijuana. How's a guy who's a staunch capitalist and a free market guy doing what he did to marijuana with retail? Made no sense to me. And I'm going to push back on Glenn Youngkin with how he fired Bert Ellis. That was a bad look, especially to replace him with Cuccinelli.
Let's not forget how he was likely the voice behind the, what do you call it? The pepper spraying?
The pro-pepper spraying protests. The pro-Palestine pepper spraying protests. What a pickle.
At least he didn't have his name on that. But
he used Jim Ryan.
Yeah.
And he used Bert Ellis. But Youngkin used Jim Ryan as the fall guy there, and then he used Bert Ellis to be the fall guy for the eradication of DEI at UVA. And then when he got what he wanted, he discarded Bert Ellis.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of...
Okay.
Not a fan of him.
I will say this. Youngkin has some presidential qualities.
Because he is white and...
No. That's not why.
I'm joking.
Fantastic fundraiser. Extremely well connected, governor of a very important state from a national politics standpoint in Virginia. It's a very important state.
Sadly, none of those actually make you a good person to be.
What, president?
I'm saying
the last president was Joe Biden and the current president is Donald Trump.
You're saying anything is better than those two?
Oh, I'm just saying the last president was Joe Biden and the current president is Donald Trump. We're a couple of what are those? What's the games where the game you play? Was it pickup sticks?
You remember that bit on Saturday Night Live called Lowered Expectations?
That's where we're at right now. Remember the game Pickup Sticks?
Yeah.
Where you would throw sticks on the ground and you would try to pick them up without moving the other ones. And if you picked up the stick without moving the other one, you got to keep the stick. And the winner with the most sticks at the end of the game won the game. The guy who had the most sticks. We're a handful of pickup sticks away from being in a global recession. Now, the markets have rebounded today.
Yeah. Let's hope
we're still a couple of pickup sticks away from a global recession.
Yeah, let's hope it's not a dead cat.
What's the dead cat reference?
Dead cat bounce? You never heard of that?
I've heard of that.
I don't know. I don't necessarily know what it would be in this case, but oftentimes I've heard it said that the hedge funds have lost some money and they want to get it back. They do this with the stock market.
Judah is the ultimate conspiracy theorist when it comes to the market.
Okay.
You are the ultimate conspiracy
Never mind
theorist.
then.
I respect your conspiracy.
I'm not conspiracy.
You wouldn't say you have conspiracy theorist tendencies?
I mean, I'd say I look deeper than just like, whatever MSNBC and
it's
CNN
not a knock. I'm not knocking you.
I know. I don't tend to be.
I'm not knocking you. I've known you. You've worked here for 15 years.
I don't think most of the people that we see on TV are smart enough to be parts of conspiracies, but that doesn't mean that there's not.
I think the people that are on
malice.
TV are being used by the intelligent people. They're the puppets. And the puppets are the communication of the puppeteer's message. That's what's happening.
Now, who's the conspiracy theorist?
Now, speaking of puppeteers, let's go to the CVille Right Now story. You want to put that lower third on screen? And if you're just tuning into the program from Charlottesville Media Group, I encourage you to listen to the monologue of my show, where I gave Charlottesville Media Group and the Charlottesville Radio Group team nothing but props, and I gave them their flowers. And last week I said on the show, I also gave you your flowers last week when I said CVilleRightNow.com was a welcome addition to the news ecosystem locally. I gave you your flowers. But this retraction is probably the most egregious journalistic mistake I have seen in 23 years of covering being in the news business in Central Virginia. I've been in it for 23 years in September. I started before my third year at the University of Virginia stringing stories for Jerry Ratcliffe. The first story I ever strung was a volleyball story at the Covenant School. First one I ever did. And this retraction, I'm going to read it for you. It's on CVilleRightNow.com with the headline Retraction. Exact words. And then, Judah, you unpack this. CVille Right Now recently published a report that told a fictitious story about an individual who does not exist, Deon Taylor. Our article claimed this man was represented by UVA's Innocence Project and that he received $580,000 from the General Assembly. Neither is true. It also quoted the former director of the Innocence Project, Deidre Enright, when in fact Miss Enright had never been interviewed about this non-existent person or payment. We have removed this fictitious story from our website and want to convey our sincerest apologies to Miss Enright, the Innocence Project, and the UVA School of Law, and to our readers. Where do you want to go with this, Judah Wickower? Jesus.
I mean, it's just so silly. I don't see how anyone could not think that this is clearly a chat GPT. I haven't read the article since, as you've said, they've taken it down. In fact, there's even if you look up, I just wanted to see if I could find it anywhere. And I Googled Deon 580,000 Charlottesville. And there's a Z95 link. Virginia awards $580K to exonerated man represented by, and that's all you can read. But when you try to go to the link, it's a 404, so they clearly...
I mean, we could use the Wayback Machine and find this if we wanted to.
Potentially.
Here's the point. Journalism number one. Journalism number one for CVille Right Now.
Do we even know who had the byline on that?
Journalism number one.
If any at all.
Rule number one, you don't delete the mistake article. You don't do that. You don't do that. That wasn't done in the newspaper business. It doesn't change anything. You don't delete it. Rule number two, with the retraction, you edit the initial piece with a disclaimer or editor's note at the bottom of the initial piece with the retraction. You can publish a separate piece with the retraction, which you've done, but you don't delete the initial one. Journalism 101. Also, this reeks of ChatGPT, as Judah said. This not only reeks of ChatGPT, but this reeks of human capital not editing and auditing the copy that was churned and produced by ChatGPT. This was also discussed on the radio. I heard the discussion on the radio. This is probably the most egregious retraction I've ever seen in 23 years of covering media locally. The person highlighted in the article did not exist. The payment was never made. And
Obviously.
The person cited in the quote or highlighted in the quote was never spoken to.
Mm-hmm.
The entire story was a fabrication. Very curious to see if there's any kind of legal fallout from this. The only reason I don't think there would be legal fallout from this is I'm not sure there's anything liable here.
UVA is not going to sue
Yeah.
the station, the news source.
I don't think there's anything liable here.
It'd be very hard to.
But this is a big deal, folks.
The person that was mentioned, I doubt they have the time or the. It's just, it's It's a crazy story.
John Blair says this: I will state that the retraction truly pains me. Jay James is a great guy and does a great job with WINA's morning show. I concur with that. I also listen to Best Seat in the House on occasion with Luke Neer, who does a good job with that show. I concur with that as well. I think Luke Neer also plays a mean banjo. John Blair also says, I don't say this lightly. This is a potential backbreaker in terms of credibility. Retractions and bad stories happen in news. Sometimes the reporter goes too far without giving a fair shake to a target, i.e. Rolling Stone. Sometimes the reporter gets fed bad or false information, but this is beyond anything we have ever seen. This is going to require the news organization to offer a TikTok on its website about how the story became published. Unless that explanation is offered, I'm afraid that many are going to have doubts about the content on the website. It's a fair comment. Stacey Baker Patty adds this. Where did Stacey Baker Patty's comment go? Her comments are always very good. She says, you think CVille right now would know way better given the Rolling Stone debacle that sadly put UVA in the national spotlight due to that level of incompetence. That was my fraternity that was reported upon in that Rolling Stone article. Phi Kappa Psi, both my brother and my fraternity. All right. Let's go to the next headline. I just got an email from the Defending Our UVA Medical School Faculty and Colleagues email account. And this letter, which I received in my inbox 20 minutes ago, has been signed by a boatload of doctors, actual names. Dana Albin, MD, David Callender, MD, Bobby Chabra, MD. Chabra's a good guy. Stephen Culp, MD, Jason Druzgal, MD, Nabil Elkasanabani, I'm sorry, Nabil, I'm messing up your last name. Peter Hallel, Patrick Johnson, MD, a boatload of doctors. So one paragraph statement that the doctors have sent to my email account. I'll see if I can read this after the show. You're watching the show. I'm acknowledging that I received this. This is, we are pure elected faculty, senators, and senators-elect at the University of Virginia School of Medicine. We're writing in our individual capacities, not on behalf of UVA or any related entity. They're responding to the series of public letters that have been sent to the Daily Progress, and we want to get the record straight. The cat fighting continues.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at it.
Oh, it got sent to you as well?
No. It's let's see. There's a short blurb on it on of all places, CVille right now, and they link to the letter.
We'll talk about it tomorrow. All right. How about Ziana Bryant? Let's close with Ziana Bryant. What do you make of Ziana Bryant saying she wants the school board to embody her qualities? Boldness.
I mean, it's kind of it doesn't really say anything, right? It's word salad. It's like, I want the school board to be bold like me. Okay, great. What does that mean? Does that mean we should make accusations falsely against people? Does that mean we should never apologize for making mistakes? Does that mean that ruining people's lives is, just part of the job of making the people and the businesses around us better in our personal view? Is our personal view the only thing that matters? I find a lot...
you got the right lower third on screen?
Ziana Bryant wants school board to embody boldness. I find a lot to be desired. I'm pretty sure that Ziana Bryant will win a seat.
You do think she'll win a seat?
What's her... I think there's only 3 seats open and 4 people running. I don't think she's going to come out last in this. So it seems to me that she will likely get a seat. But I don't know that she has a whole lot to offer the school. There's
5 candidates running for 3 seats.
Okay.
3 of the candidates, 3 of the 5 are incumbents and have already served on the board.
Yeah.
The fifth candidate is Deshad Cooper, who ran for Charlottesville City Council.
Yeah.
Do I think Ziana Bryant has a good chance of being on the board? Yes, I do. Ziana Bryant, I hope you hear this. I think you have a chance of being on the board. If you want to pick apart what I have to say here, Ziana Bryant, you can do that. I do not want an elected body to embody the qualities of one individual. I want an elected body to embody the qualities of all the people on the elected body.
Yeah.
And not just one person. Furthermore, I want my elected officials to be boring in the background, predictable and consistent, even-keeled, a metronome. I do not want boldness with my government. And lastly, and Stacey Baker Patty, I hope you hear this, and I hope this gets back to Meg Bryce, if she's not watching or listening to the show. Will the same people that attacked Meg Bryce for not having children in the Albemarle County Public School, will they also attack Ziana Bryant for not having children in the public school?
Well, I don't think they will call it...
See, this is where it's tomato.
I know.
Judah's about to make this statement. She chose to put her kids in private school instead of educate them into public school. And then I would respond to Judah's statement by saying, she's a mother, Ziana Bryant is not. And how would you respond to that?
Yeah.
Okay? So if somebody says, oh, the Meg Bryce thing is different, Meg Bryce chose to put her kids in private school, Meg Bryce didn't put her kids in public school, I'd say that's BS, dude. Meg Bryce is a mom of 4 kids. If you're going to use that kind of petty logic, aren't I going to use this kind of petty logic? At least she's a mom. At least she's a parent.
At least she knows what it's like to have kids and
to birth kids, to shoot a bowling ball out of her body times 4, and to rear children in some kind of educational setting. Okay? So the same people that are hammering Bryce about Bryce not having kids in the school system, will that same kind of momentum and that same kind of passion rear its newsworthy head with Ziana Bryant? And that is a fair effing statement. And if I catch heat for that, so be it. That is a fair effing statement. The last topic I want to cover on this show is you put me on a one-shot and you work the dynamic nature of the one-shot monologue, please, is Kyle Guy. And I want to remind the viewers and listeners that Bert Ellis is on tomorrow's show. The Fired Board of Visitors members on tomorrow's show. It's at 12:30. You're not going to want to miss the interview. If you have questions for them, send them to me. We can relay them live on air. I'm going to ask you, the viewer and listener, this question. Did Kyle Guy get screwed by the University of Virginia? He announced yesterday in the middle of the day that he would no longer coach at UVA, and he indicated in his statement that he would have liked to have stayed in Charlottesville. I'm going to ask an uncomfortable question. Did the face of a generation of Virginia basketball fans, and maybe that face is Tony Bennett, but certainly the player face of a generation of Virginia basketball fans is Kyle Guy, the national champion, the man who hit 3 clutch free throws to seal and deliver a national championship in 2019. Did this man who bled orange and blue and who returned to Charlottesville, who cut a professional playing career short in Europe to return to Charlottesville with his wife and kids, did he get screwed by the University of Virginia? Was he offered a legitimate shot to stay an assistant coach at UVA? There's a rumor floating around that he was offered a job and he turned it down. I'm not buying the rumor yet. And I'm certainly not going to buy the rumor if that legitimate job that was offered to Kyle Guy to hang around was a meager, low-paying, below median income job. He's a father, he's got a wife, he's got kids. A man who wins a national championship for the University of Virginia is the most important person on that team while winning the national championship at the University of Virginia, and is the face of a generation of basketball fans at the University of Virginia, and who cut his professional playing career short to come learn and coach alongside Tony Bennett, only to have Tony Bennett quit right before the season. Would Kyle Guy have cut his professional basketball career short to come to UVA to coach if he had known Tony Bennett was going to quit the way he did, and then he was going to be thrown into a fire with Ron Sanchez as an interim head coach with uncertainty clouding the entire campaign? Hell to the no, he wouldn't have done that. Hell to the no. He wouldn't have quit playing in Europe to come here to watch Tony Bennett quit, to watch Ron Sanchez get dragged through the ringer, to watch the entire roster enter the transfer portal, to then hang on the vine to see if Odom was going to keep him. No way in hell he would have brought his family and his kids from Europe over here to do this. And he's still finishing his degree. Did he get screwed by the University of Virginia? That is a fair question, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll leave it to you to be the judge and jury. For Judah Wickower, I'm Jerry Miller. Thank you for joining us in so long.